everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I have for you guys my classics I read in 2021 video. I did one of these for 2020. I thought I would carry on the tradition. I only read 8 classics this past year, not including my reread Beowulf. These are only the classics I read for the first time this year. And you know, as with any of these videos, my definition of classic and your definition of classic may be different, but I consider all of these classics. And although I didn't read as many classics as I wanted to, nor did I read some of these specific classics that I wanted to read this year, you know, I'm proud of myself. I read 8. The majority of these were non-school related, and next year, 2022, I'm taking a lot more literature classes probably, so I will probably be reading more classics for school. And so anyway, I'm proud of myself even though I didn't exactly meet my goals. So I'm going to start with my least favorite and work my way up to my favorite classics. This should come as no surprise to some of you that my least favorite classic I read in 2021 was Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I read this at the end of December of last year and on into January. I had originally given it a 3, but when I was looking back at all of these ratings, I was like, that's too high. So it's now a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Yeah, this has an interesting story. I started it and I was having so much trouble, and then I got a 5,000 piece puzzle and found a free audiobook for it on YouTube, and I listened to the audiobook sped up while I puzzled, and that is how I finished it. I talked a lot about this, I feel like, in the first couple of videos. I might have even talked about this on my classics I read in 2020. But technically I read it in 2021 because I finished it this year, so it's getting counted again. It follows a woman in Russia as she starts to have an affair with another man. Yeah, it follows a bunch of people actually, not just Anna. All I can remember about this book is the ending and how much I disliked it. It was very ranty. There was a lot about farming, I think, and like agriculture and manufacturing, and truth be told, I just couldn't care less. I read this for the romance, I'm not gonna lie to you, and the romance was, you know, I also remember I didn't really like the ending for multiple reasons. So yeah, I dropped the rating down mostly because the only things I remember about this is how much I disliked my time reading it. I don't know if I would ever read it again. It's really long. It took me like 3 weeks to get through. But I still want to read War and Peace, so there's that. Okay, next book is Dracula, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I read it in October. It's on one of my recent reads videos, can't remember which one. I read this in time for Halloween, and again, kind of the same thing with Anna Karenina. I did listen to the audiobook version of it. I got a free one off of Libby, and I listened to it as I crocheted a sweater or a cardigan. So I didn't physically read the majority of this, and I actually think that the audiobook enhanced my experience. You don't know what Dracula's about. What can I tell you? The original vampire, you know, and there's a team of people who are trying to hunt him down and kill him and end his murdering ways. And I talked about this in whatever video I talked about Dracula, but I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed it. It actually made me tear up at the end. There was some found family tropes happening, and it was told in like varying letters and journal entries, and so that was really interesting and something I didn't expect. So all in all, it was good. I don't know if I would ever reread it. I'm not opposed to it, but I definitely wouldn't read it soon. You know, maybe one day. Okay, next book that I read, classic I read, was The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I gave this, again, a 3 out of 5. I read this because I had seen a lot of people talking about it on TikTok, and obviously Sylvia Plath is known for her death and her interesting life, and so I picked it up and I read it. This one got a 3 because the writing wasn't my favorite, and also, I don't know, I just found it kind of boring, to be honest. You know, as someone who doesn't necessarily need a good plot, I just felt like there really wasn't enough of a plot even for me, and I didn't necessarily feel all that connected to the main character as it follows her life, and it was interesting. I would reread it again, maybe when I'm older, and, you know, I've experienced my 20s for myself and can kind of relate more, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I read this in August, and I really can't remember all that much about it, which I should have said this at the beginning. Obviously, the ones I've read earlier in the year, I don't remember as much than the majority of these I've read really recently. So those are going to be more fresh in my mind. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel all that connected to it emotionally. So, but I would reread it. Okay, next classic I read, I don't have a physical copy of, and that is Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which is an anonymously written poem or epic. I read this twice, actually, but only once all the way through for my 2 literature classes I was in this past semester. And I have to say I really enjoyed it. It got a 3 out of 5, mainly because of its length, and also I didn't read the original verse. I read a prose translation, but like it was really long and it was really wordy, but I still really enjoyed it. I will always remember this book or section in the 2 classes this semester for our interesting class conversations, and it follows Gawain, who is a famous Arthurian knight, as he battles the Green Knight. I mean, what else is there? And there's a lot of, it's hard for me to talk about this without like referencing my deep academic discussions on it, and I wrote like 3 essays on this thing. But yeah, it's really, I like it. The new movie, The Green Knight, with Dev Patel, that came out this year, is based off of it, very loosely, by the way. But I liked it. I enjoyed it. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever read, you know. I would probably reread it, and I would probably buy a physical copy of it because I enjoyed the story. Okay, next book, next classic I read was The Odyssey by Homer. Also feel like I've talked about this a bunch recently. I had to read this because I did a research project on editions and translations of the Odyssey, and so I figured I should read the book before I actually did all of this research on it, and I actually ended up being really proud of my final research project, but that's besides the point. This translation is by W.H.D. Rouse. Can't say I recommend this one. It's definitely older, and I don't know. I would totally read, if I ever reread this, I will read a completely different and newer translation. But you know, it was still the original story. This was the first time I had ever read the Odyssey all the way through. Gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars, just because like it's Odyssey. I didn't like the beginning part that was solely on Telemachus, Odysseus' son. I liked the original, like, famous stories of like when he battles the Cyclops, and when he goes through the sirens, and when he meets Circe. And so that was the part that I really enjoyed, and obviously the end is quite something. Again, I don't feel like this translation gave me all that I needed it to give, but I still enjoyed the story. And I think Odysseus is a really interesting character, and I don't know, he's really, he's quite something. So there's that. Okay, next classic was Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I read this at the beach, so in May. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think this is my least favorite Austen I've read, I'm pretty sure. I've read 4 of them. I think this is my least favorite so far. From what I can remember, I really don't like her longer ones. I like the short ones, which doesn't bode well for Emma. If I can remember correctly, yeah, there's 2 sisters. Again, I can't really remember my definitive thoughts. You could go find it in a wrap-up. I think it's in my May wrap-up. Yeah, I don't know. Can't really remember the like plot of this one. If I remember correctly, they don't really get together until like the very, very end. And I think I remember being a little disappointed with how many interactions we got between her and the main love interest. And it just seeming kind of, or it was just kind of sudden. Their romance, maybe? Yeah, I don't know. Clearly didn't have that big of an impact on me. I'd reread it again. I like Jane Austen. Definitely have to be in the mood for her. And I definitely like the shorter ones, as you will see shortly. So there's that. Okay, next classic I read was, I finished it like this month, and that is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. Very Jane Austen-esque, except I kind of liked Elizabeth Gaskell's writing better than Jane. I just feel like it was a little bit more modern and therefore easier to understand and connect with. It was pretty ranty. It's set in Victorian England, and there's a lot about the labor movement that happened in England, and a lot of discussion around like rural versus urban, and some of the rants I could have done without, but that's okay. It's also mainly a romance. I really liked the romance. I really liked the main character. So yeah, it's basically Jane Austen, but like a little, I think she came after Jane, and it was like a little more substantive and about like the state of the world. I really liked it. I would reread it again. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. So one of my favorite classics I've read. Now for the last classic I read, at least like not chronologically, but on this list, and that is Northington Abbey by Jane Austen. I read this, I think around the same time I read The Bell Jar. I'm pretty sure it was like when I moved into my dorm, so August. I really liked this one. This might be my favorite. No, I think Persuasion's still my favorite Jane Austen, but this one is a second to that. I just like the shorter ones. I'm just gonna be honest with you. She gets more to the point. Yeah, she just gets more to the point, and there's less like rants, and there's less fluff. And yes, I like this one. 4 out of 5. I don't know what else to say. I feel like every Jane Austen is pretty much kind of the same vein, you know, falls in love, mismarriage proposals, etc., etc. So this video was short and sweet. Hope you guys enjoyed. There really have a whole lot to say about these, and there weren't a lot of them. If you want deeper opinions, I think all of these should be in a wrap-up at some point. I don't necessarily know which ones. That's just a general overview of each of my feelings. And like I said, some of them I remember better than others because I read them more recently. I'm overall happy with this list. Next year I'm gonna take a Dickens class, I think. So I should have a lot to talk about at the end of next year if I do another one of these videos. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, maybe, possibly. Happy holidays. Peace out. Goodbye. End the video.